Hello everyone, my name is Gulnaz Mushtaq and I am MCT Regional Lead from Pakistan. We are having another MCT Regional Lead from Pakistan with us, Mr. Usman Ludhi, who is organizing this virtual lab summit. I very warm welcome everyone who has joined this live summit. As you can see on the screen, this is our third and last session of the series Virtual Lab Hours. Virtual Lab Hours are the part of your MCT program benefits. Through these labs, the MCTs can master practical skills in real-world lab environments to improve their instructional skills and add value to their classroom experience. So the purpose is to get well prepared to prepare your students for the future Microsoft roles. Okay, let me change the slide. So these are the agenda items for today's session. As you can see on the screen, we are going to discuss how to get benefits from Skillable, being an MCT, overview of Skillable, how these labs can help you in preparing for your upcoming training sessions. And at the end, we are going to have a Q&A session as well. So we very warm welcome our honorable speaker, Mr. Kyle Rosenthal, who is Director of Business Development. He is responsible for the business development of learn-on-demand systems in the Asia Pacific, Japan, Middle East, and Africa regions. Thank you very much, Kyle, for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, Kyle, I'm unsharing my screen and over to you, Kyle. Thank you.
Okay, no problems at all. Let me just get my share in place.
Sure.
And I'll do a share of my presentation to start off with, and then after that I'll do some shuffling with my my share. So we've got some of the environment and something I'll share a little bit later on. But I just wanted to start off. So so thank you very much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Obviously, being involved in such a prestigious event as this is very important. I should also mention that not only am I responsible for the regions that were just mentioned, but I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer. I've been a MCT since 2000, so I have been involved in classroom delivery. I've also been involved in virtual deliveries as well, so I know what it's like to be in the room as such, and I know what it's like to be in the room when things go right, and I know what it's like to be in the room when things go wrong. And that's it's an important thing to recognize, is those skills that we have as MCTs, that you have to be on your toes as such. You have to be able to do those deliveries and to be able to make things work, even when necessarily they're not working straight in front of you. So one of the things that we aim at Skillable to do is to be able to give you that ability, right? Is to be able to give you the ability to be able to perform so that you can concentrate on being an MCT and doing the best thing for your students, rather than having to deal with an environment that's not being active as it should, or not looking like what it should do, and that sort of thing. Now, obviously, there's some things that are out of any of the authorized lab hosts environments, such as some of the things within Azure or Microsoft 365, which might change more regularly than anyone else expects. So what we try to do is we try to build in an environment which is flexible enough to be able to cope with that, and to ensure that you know, things like instructions and that sort of thing are still resilient enough to change, or resilient enough if the environment does change. So yeah, so I just wanted to kind of point that out, as I said, make mention of the fact that you know, when I'm talking about being being in the classroom and that sort of thing, I know what I'm talking about, because, as I said, I've been there, and I've done the delivery that you know that you all will be dealing with. So my little agenda of what we're doing within here, and it kind of fits in within the overall agenda with what's in place, is just to give you some of the you know, the background of who we are, why Skillable, and what's in the future, and part of that is certainly going to be, you know, what we do from an MCT perspective, and what's available for you, and also some of the things that are potentially going to change as you're doing deliveries in the future. So first off, who are we? You know, our history starts from the early 2000s. We've been around for quite a while. You might have heard us as a couple of different companies that merged over time, and modified over time. So we started off as two separate companies, Hindsight and Trillian. One of the founders of Trillian was an MCT with a double-digit MCT number. So you know, with again, our history is in training. On the Hindsight side of things, our CEO, and the person who is our current CEO, is also been an MCT since 1997 was when he first started doing training. So you know, we've all been there. You know, like a lot of our company has been based in folk who have been training folk, you know, who have been part of so at least the folk that are part of the sort of the senior team and that sort of thing. We do have more than 150 full-time employees that are located around the world. Now that's important because, you know, again, you have folk that are located within your own time zone, or who have, you know, at least some local knowledge as well. And we do all of our content, we do all of our support and all of our development in-house. So we are, you know, we are a one-stop shop. We run our own platform, we run our own data centers, or we run our own metal, and we do all the development that runs on top of that. So therefore, it means that, say for instance, if there are things that you think, it would be really great if this could happen, then there's actually a likelihood that we can actually that we can put that into place. So, you know, always make suggestions, and that's, I think, if there's things that you think that we can improve the platform with, then please feel free to reach out to us and let us know. And you know, we have a suggestion board as such to be able to run that through as well. There is a company called G2, which does overall you know, industry watch lists and that sort of thing. And we just recently, in the last couple of weeks, won their virtual lab leader worldwide for the 4th time in a row. So, you know, like, so again, we're pretty proud of that. We're pretty proud of the fact that we are, you know, certainly, you know, an industry leader, and that we, you know, part of that is not just simply making an achievement and then stopping there. We have an achievement, and then we build on it as well. So why are we different, right? Why are we different, and sort of what gives you that choice, or the reason why you would you know, use the Skillable environment? And this kind of leads to some of the things that then you have access to as an MCT when you're doing a delivery. All right, so we are definitely an industry leader. If you look at the things that have occurred within our industry, and within the MCT deliveries, and for what you've got available within the labs, we deliver. You know, we've been the first to deliver a lot of the things that we take as commonplace now. So things like, say for instance, having dynamic instructions, you know, that directly interact with the learning environment. You know, being able to click on a password link in the instructions and have that right into the lab environment. That was we were the first ones to actually put that in place and make that work. Delivering scored labs, and you'll see this come a lot more within our within the new community courseware that we've developed that I'll talk about shortly. But delivering scored labs with things like knowledge checks, putting in activity-based assessments, performance testing, those which are now commonplace when you're running through, a hands-on lab environment within the mock and having little tests and that sort of thing. That's something that we developed and we put into place in the lab environments. Now, obviously, we didn't invent knowledge checks, but having it so that it was embedded and so that it was part of the process of doing your labs, so that your students don't have to go from, say for instance, from the lab environment to the courseware and back again. That's the thing. That's all part of what we've developed and put into place. Putting in shared labs. Now, we haven't seen a lot of these as yet, but you're going to see some more of these come through when you have things like shared resources, so people be able to work on multiple users work cooperatively, or even competitively to be able to complete labs. Now, again, we haven't seen this a lot within the Microsoft labs, but it's certainly something that you will see more of as we progress into the future, I'm sure. First, to enable what we call the cloud slice environment and putting that at scale. So this is when you're doing your Azure labs, not needing to redeem the Azure pass on day one and spending that half an hour that always takes to be able to put into place. Instead, being able to just simply have supplied as part of the lab environment the resources that are required at the time, and the resources like having a username and password supplied. All of that with some orchestration that we've put into place in behind to be able to provide things like resource groups, as an example, to be able to have user accounts created that the user might use, or the student might use as part of their additional user accounts that are created as part of the lab environment for them to be able to use, without having to have being able to have that already in place without them having to necessarily do it. Which enables things like, say, for instance, moving from module 1 through to module 4, as opposed to having to do module 1, 2, and 3, and then 4. And particularly now when we're looking at sort of more flexible learning and more flexible timeframes, that becomes more of a challenge, right? Where people might not sit down in a class for 5 days in a row to be able to do a class and labs. You might do it as a more flexible delivery. So doing things like Cloud Slice enables you to be able to put that in place. And we were very proud to be able to say that we were the first ones to put that in place. Then enabling lab environments to be able to do automatic tasks, and they can be things like web API, sending notifications through the students and putting commands in place. And again, this gives you some flexibility as an MCT with your delivery to be able to deliver, particularly when we're talking about doing virtual classroom environments where the student may not necessarily be in the room with you. Being able to just send notifications out to all of your students, hey, it's lunchtime, or make sure you're finishing up lab 3, that sort of thing. Being able to do that within the lab environment then means that they don't have to drop out of that to be able to see, whatever the Teams meeting platform or the Zoom meeting that you're in, whatever it might be. Instead, they're able to be they're able to see some of those things within the lab environment itself. Also, as an aside, we have just renewed our SOC 2 type 2 certification, which gives you, the promise that we are well and truly on top of our security as well, to ensure that the security and integrity of your students' details. And we are fully GDPR compliant as well. So we are well and truly making sure that the students' data and the students' information is as safe as possible. So, like, you know, the other reason sort of why we are different, right, is things that Skillable, and this is one of our mission statements, is that we go beyond training to be able to enable actual skilling through hands-on labs that are built for learning while doing. Now, one of the things that we try that we make sure that we are doing is we are supporting, you know, you as the MCT as part of that classroom environment, right? So again, whether it's an in-person training or whether it's a virtual training, using the hands-on labs supported on the Skillable platform means that you've got hands-on labs that are going to be robust and just kind of get out of the way. You know, like I've often had you know, customers who have contacted me, or new customers have said it took me a while to work out, you know, who it was that I needed to talk to, because you know, we didn't sort of, you know, have a lot of advertisement of, oh, this is who the, you know, the company is and that sort of thing. It's like, well, yeah, that's what we try to do. We try not to be, you know, in your, like, in the face of the students. The students' interaction with us should be as seamless and as transparent as possible. That basically all that they are seeing is the end result, and they're doing the hands-on hands-on components and being able to do that learning while doing, while, you know, in the like in a Microsoft course, while being led by the MCT. You know, the MCT should be able, like, you know, you should be able to get on and do your training without having to worry about what's going on in the lab environment. The lab environment should just be there and should just work, and that's what we aim to be able to do. So we do have full support for the Microsoft certified trainer community. Right? If you navigate to skillable.com, there's /offers. There's 2 offers that we have there. We have offers for the mock labs, and obviously you have full access to those, and that is completely free. It's a benefit that we offer to all MCTs worldwide, to be able to run the mock labs. Now, the mock labs that you can run those completely for free, to be able to do your prepping. As well as that, from a training center perspective, we do not ever charge for the trainer's seat. So as long as you're registered on as the trainer, there's no cost at all for you to be able to run the labs. In addition to that, with the mock labs, there are some of the mock labs that we actually have. We'll have additional instructions, and that's a thing that's available that'll show for the Microsoft certified trainer. So it'll be, you know, little hints about, you know, things to watch out for delivery of particular labs, as an example, that we'll put into place. In addition to that, as the MCT, you also have the ability to be able to hide and reveal mock labs as you're delivering. So say, for instance, if you don't want to have, you know, maybe you've got 10 modules of labs in it, but you don't want the students to be able to launch all 10 labs. You know, you want to focus them on particular lab environment, because you know that if they go and launch out module 3 lab before you've actually discussed it, that, you know, that things might not, you know, be successful. So you as the MCT have the ability to be able to disable all the labs and then just enable them as you need to, you know, for the students to be able to access. In addition to that, we also have free access for what we call a challenge labs, and we make the offer of the challenge labs the all access pass. And for those of you that have used labs on our like the mock labs on our platform, you might have come across these before. That these are the additional content that we add on over and above the mock content, to give you some extra information for the students to be able to leverage, and there might be sort of more concentrated on particular knowledge points that you might want to point the students to. So that you will see these as part of the mock labs, and if you scroll all the way down the bottom of a mock lab that has these involved, like I said, most of the Azure labs, Azure courses will have these in, but we also have them as a separate product as well. And so as an MCT, you have full access to those as well. So the Challenge Labs All Access Pass, and they go across you know, various different technologies. They also go across multiple certifications as well. So if there's an MCT, you're getting ready to to renew your certification, or you're wanting to expand out to a new Microsoft cert or others, then you have the ability to be able to use the Challenge Labs to be able to do that and expand out your knowledge, because the more that you can know as a background, then obviously the better that's going to be for the students as well when you're doing your delivery. So I do encourage you to sign up for both of those. You do need to sign up for them, as well as that they do renew on an annual basis, and obviously that's because your MCT status also renews as an annual basis. So one of the requirements that we have for Microsoft is that as part of doing the delivery for those for the mock labs, we do need to renew that as well. So so make sure that you're aware of that, and there will be emails giving you some reminders about it too. But certainly sign up for that, so make sure you do sign up. We do have a 24/7 help desk, so if you sign up, if you went to sign up now, you'll actually see, you should have very quickly back the details for your logons. So yeah, so the 24/7 help desk is also important as well, because obviously you're delivering across multiple time zones. So as an example, I'm here in Australia, so like I'm sitting in Brisbane, Australia. It's just gone 2:20 in the morning on Sunday morning. So if I was doing a delivery, because that was part of my training, I don't want to have to wait until Monday morning for someone in the US to wake up for me to be able to get some support for something. So we do have a 24/7 help desk. We have a tracking ticketing system. So if you do put a request in, then we'll make sure that there is someone on the other end and actioning that as well. We do have multiple data centers around the world. Now that's also important that we've got that. We've got data centers that are in all the major regions, so in the US, in Asia, as well as in Europe. And we've got multiples in some of those locations as well. And the reason that's important is because that then means that your students, no matter where they are, should be able to get the best experience possible, because we can actually deliver the lab in as local as possible for them. Now, obviously, that we don't have a data center in every country. So therefore, it may not necessarily be in country that we deliver it from, but we will certainly be delivering, be able to deliver a very much a local experience for the student. So, and it means that that things like, say for instance, latency, lagging, that sort of thing should be as minimal as it can possibly be. And of course, we do also have cloud content and services that we deliver through as well. So therefore, things like Azure, etc. We'll be forming cloud resources for your students to be able to leverage off. So it's not all just sitting in our data centers, but it is important to note that we do, we do put our money where our mouth is. We do have our own metal to be able to run from. And the reason that we do that is because then we have full stack control as well. So therefore it makes it what you can actually run with them within those lab environments becomes very much the same as what you can run within like in a traditional classroom with full metal as well. So yes, so just a couple of things that make us different, and why you potentially choose us. And obviously the fact that that a lot of our senior leadership are trainers or ex-trainers, also helps as well, because again we've been there, we've experienced that pain, we've experienced the doing things in the classroom and having to deal with that and deal with students. So other things that that work for us, right? So the validated students and challenge-centric learning that we're trying to use, that we're using to be able to transform the way that organizations upskill partners, customers and employees, right? So we do a lot of work directly with with businesses and that sort of thing, and a lot of the development that we do from within there and the improvements that we make into based off enterprise suggestions, that thing, we also then put into the classroom environment and vice versa. So because of that scale, it then means that we've got a lot of extra, kind of content, a lot of extra development that we do to be able to improve the experience. I mentioned before the challenge labs, right? And that's additional content that we add in for the students and also for the instructors to be able to leverage off. It then means that you've got something over and above what's in the mock. What's in the mock, and as you know, and as I know, like some of the times that in order to be able to complete like a particular topic within some of the Microsoft courses, like there's other things your students are curious about that aren't directly within the class itself, but you want to be able to say, hey, if you're curious about how to implement this DNS implementation or this security policy and putting that in place, like particularly once the student has left the classroom, it's oftentimes it's hard to kind of guide them along the way. You can say, hey, look, have a look in this MS Learn article, that sort of thing, but you still want to be able to give them that sandbox environment to be able to do some of that step-by-step learning through. And that's where the challenge labs, kind of give you that ability to be able to leverage off. And as I said, with a lot of the mock courses that we have now, we add these in for free. So therefore, you'll actually see them for the students. If you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll like past all the official labs, you'll see these additional labs, and they become a really good value add for you to be able to point your students to later on, which then gives you, as the MCT, a differentiator within your classroom as well. We do have, and this is more sort of back-end content, right? We've got API and LTI integration. So therefore, if your organization has their own LMS that you want to be able to leverage off, you can certainly do that. And you can use, certainly we do have a fully fledged LMS that's part of the delivery platform for Skillable. Which we've got, I've got training companies who that's what they use to be able to run their training business through is our LMS. But if you have your own LMS, as long as it has as long as it's a pretty solid LMS, you'll probably have API or LTI calls that you can do out of that. So it means that, again, you can actually make it easier for your students for how they're actually doing their delivery through, right? So being able to, use your LMS to be able to then call in what are the official labs to be able to pull through. Okay, and certainly now with some of the changes that we've got, that the Microsoft are making to the delivery of the courseware, and moving it out of things like, say, for instance, the Courseware marketplace for delivery, and putting that into MS Learn, then we've had that ability to be able to call in content from MS Learn for quite a while now, and so now we're adding that and putting that to being the Microsoft Courseware as well. So you'll see a lot more of that integration in addition as well. Kind of a little bit of a brag, of course. Hey, we've got more than 24 million lab launches that we've had on our platform. So again, it's not a new system, like it's not a new platform. It's not something that you go, oh, I wonder if it's going to work. 24 million labs have launched off our platform. We'll have, through some of the events like the Microsoft events, that's something that we've run. We've had simultaneous launches across multiple classrooms. We've had up to 5,000 or 6,000 simultaneous launches at this, that students walking into an instructor-led lab in a Microsoft event, and everyone starting at the same time and being able to run that up. So we're pretty proud of the fact that our platform will withstand that sort of immediate launch. But yeah, like I said, we certainly scale out. The other thing that's going to be of a major benefit for you as the instructor, right? And what I like to say is that when you're using a virtual lab environment, when you're using Skillable for your virtual labs, the learning doesn't finish on the Friday. Basically, the learning goes beyond the classroom walls. So what I mean by that is that when you're doing your presentation, so Monday through to Friday, or Sunday through to Thursday, obviously depending on where you are in the world. Then you get to the last day of the course, and at that point, that's when you wave goodbye to your students, right? Now you might say to them, hey, have you got any questions? Please, feel free to contact me later on. But they never really do, or maybe they do, but you want to be able to point them to be able to do the some extra content or learning and that sort of thing. And so we actually offer, depending on the course, up to 6 months of post-class access, and that's included. So it then means that your students, say for instance, if there's, you've got a student who doesn't quite get completed with everything, or you have a student who's one of those ones who wants to go through and redo all of the labs, then they can certainly do that, right? They can do that by accessing the platform up to 6 months after the class is finished. So therefore it means that if they're preparing for certification, as an example, and they want to be able to go through some of those labs again, well, they can certainly do that, right? You've got the, and that becomes, again, another really good thing for you to be able to point your students out. All right, so what about the future? And one of the things that we've been really pushing within our industry is to make some changes, right? And so one of the things that you might find that you might have seen already is some of the new community courseware that we've developed. So that new community courseware, so this is, Microsoft retired a bunch of the courses at the end of last year. And so we've been developing our community courseware. We've currently got 5 courses that have been that are available, which are the sort of the most popular of those courses that got retired, and we'll cover across things like the Windows Server, so the Windows Server Identity as an example, SQL, that sort of thing that we've put some courses out. I do want to point out to you that when you get to these, they are a different layout. It's a very different courseware design. Excuse me, we haven't gone down the route of simply delivering the mock with rebadged. Instead, we've actually gone and we've thought about it. What's a better way to be able to make this to do classroom delivery, right? What's going to make a better experience for the students as well as for you as the instructors, right? So we do have a different layout that we've put into place. We've got different courseware. We've redesigned the courseware, and it is focused around hands-on learning, and it's focused around what we call challenge-centric learning. So one of the things that we do as part of that, and this is why you have to sort of make sure you're across it for your delivery, is things like making sure that you are, or like we will actually ask right at the beginning of a module, we'll do a hands-on lab, right? And that would then ask the student a series of questions, right? A little sort of mini exam, if you like. And what that does is that then sets the scene for you as the instructor. Okay, well, what do my students actually know about this topic, right? And then what it does is it means that you as the instructor have the ability to be able to really demonstrate and show off your knowledge, right? Because you can be far more targeted with what the students like, with what you're teaching to the students. In addition to that, that asking of students up front what they know then means that we can do things like when they get to the point of actually doing the hands-on lab, we'll give them, like, we'll make the choice for them to start off with as to what sort of instructions they get to see. So when you're doing your like a standard sort of mock course, if you're looking in the back of the I always used to refer to the back of the book or the front of the book. For the labs, you'd have the set of instructions which were very much step by step, right? Click here, click there, do this, that sort of thing. And then you'd have the set of instructions which were more to kind of push your knowledge, right? Where it would say, this is what the outcome is you need to have. So, create a new user. So rather than telling you how to open up the Active Directory tools and then creating a new user within Active Directory, it would simply go say, create a new user, this is the name. All right, so what we've got is we've got now like a set of instructions which the student can flick between the two. So they can either be that, you know, that more descriptive, or the more summary or challenge or you know, challenging sort of version of the instructions. And the idea with that is that what it does is it, you know, tailors the environment for the student. They can certainly, you know, if they've been presented with the challenging set of instructions, you know, like sort of the more summarized version, they can switch between that and the full set, and you know, same with the student who gets the full set, they can go back to the challenge, and they can also expand things like hints and that sort of thing to be able to kind of like, I'm not really sure exactly what I should do here. Can you give me a hint? Don't give me the full instructions, but give me a hint. But the idea is like sort of that what we've done is that we've tried to redesign it so that the hands-on component is up front, and then to get them started, and then you get to guide the student through the experience after that. And we, you know, going to give you the ability to be able to really show off what you know. In addition to that, at the end of each day, or at the end, like at the end of each at the end of each day, so the modules that would be covered during that day, we have a capstone lab. Now, the idea of that is, you know, when you get to the end of a day, or, you know, maybe you do it as the start of you know, day two, you know, at the end, like you've done day one, and you're not sure when the students come back in, you're not sure what they've retained from everything you've done during the day. Or alternatively, the students want to see, okay, how does this actually work for everything that we've done? How does it all come together? And so that's what we have the capstones for. So the capstones give you the ability to be able, or give the students the ability to be able to take everything they've learned during that day and bring it together and see how it actually works all together. So you've had, you know, maybe 3 or 4 modules that you've covered during that day, which have all been on separate topics around the same sort of, you know, basic set of instructions, but they're all the same. Like, you know, they're all you know, they're all different modules. But you then want to be able to, like, the student wants to know how do they all interact with each other? Like, you know, how do I bring that all together? And also then how do I then, you know, how can they show that they've actually retained things? And so that's one of the other changes that we've made, is we've put these capstone projects in place with the idea that that's then going to be give them the ability to be able to bring all of that knowledge together. And it also then gives you a really good idea as to how much they've actually retained, so that then you can then take that and go, okay, well, you know, obviously everyone was struggling with the content that was covered in module 2, so why don't we have a revisit of that, right? And the idea being that at the end of the course, that your students are going to have a much better outcome. Your students are going to be able to retain knowledge. They're going to have it reinforced along the way, so that then when you get to the end of the course, your students are going to walk away smarter than what they started off with, and being able to implement the content that you've been teaching, or that you've been training them. And the benefit of that, of course, is that makes you look much better as the MCT as well, because then it means that as the MCT you can say, yeah, of course, the reason why the students are retained is because I was able to tailor that content for them, and so that they then know, you know, we've given them exactly the information they need, which then means that from a business perspective, they're also going to be walking away with much more knowledge as well. So, and being able to implement that when they get back into the business. Okay, so a couple of the action items from the content that I've discussed. So make sure you do go and sign up for the MCT mock access, and also the MCT all access pass. If you haven't already done that while we've been talking, make sure you go and do that, right? So that you then have access, and again, you should get back the login details pretty quickly, and then start working with the community courseware as well. so that you're familiar with that. So as that starts coming from, you know, the businesses that you deal with, as they start leveraging off that more, that you'll know what it looks like, because like it is not like, you know, as a one of my colleagues likes to say, it's not your mama's mock, right? It is a reimagining of what the classroom delivery should look like, to be able to have the best outcome from your students as well as for you as the instructors. I'll also add in with that, with the with the other things to do as well, is that part of setting up for the MCT access as well, is that you're also going to get some invitations to some of our monthly calls as well, and as the MCT contact, I'll also be the person who will be presenting with some of that. So we'll have little monthly meetings where we're answering any questions you might have, or showing you some of the new things that are coming up as well. And basically being able to make sure that as a community, as an MCT community, that we actually have, that we share our knowledge. Okay, so that is the end of sort of my presentation side of things. I think that we've got some. We're moving now on to some Q&A. Is that Simone, what's going to be in there? So okay, so I'm not sure if Simone can hear me, but otherwise let's have a look. I can have a look at some of the.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
we was expecting a demo.
Oh, okay, sure, no problems. Okay, I can certainly do that.
And there are a bunch of questions here, like MCTs are asking. The first question is that right now on New Learn platform, there is no access code, and I guess let me see the question.
Okay, hello, Usman. Can I take
yes,
over? Thank you so much. Kyle, can we have a demo, a short demo?
Yep, sure. Yep, no problems at all. I'm just signing into the platform now, so I can show you some of what's on there. And we do have full integration into different identity services and that sort of thing. So therefore, it's actually takes me a couple of steps to be able to do my login, because I do have to do some MFA to be able to log on. So there's a couple of steps to be able to get to there. Okay, so let me pull up my environment.
People are asking a lot of questions regarding the access codes and the sharing the transcript IDs, because I just have seen so many questions regarding these.
Sure, let me have a look. I'll just jump over to the Q&A while that's opening. So there is some.
So right after the demo, we will be having a Q&A session.
Okay, sure, no problems. Yeah. I'm just having a look through in there.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So there is. Yeah. So we still do have on that sign up page the MCT ID plus the transcript, the transcript request. Yeah. So if you can, like someone said that just put in a fake code for the moment. I will get the I will get that sorted out with regards to the change, because that has been a recent change for the lack of MCT. Yeah, so if you can put that through, if you just use any number at the moment, that'll work for the purpose of what we're doing. All right. So we'll get back to the Q&A shortly. I just want to, I'll show you a couple of the courses that are available, and so we'll flick to that to start off with.
Gail, we are
so
not seeing your screen.
I've just started sharing now, so that's the reason why, because I was looking at the Q&A. So you should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah, that is visible now.
Yep. Okay, great. Yeah. So this is an example of our AZ-104 course. So with the AZ-104 course, you know, the Microsoft Administrator course, it's a, you know, obviously a basic sort of one that's in there. This is one of our courses that we do have an offering that goes using our Cloud Slice technology. So with the Cloud Slice technology, it does mean that the students don't need to have a they don't need to redeem an Azure Pass. Now that, you know, and obviously Azure Passes, particularly over the last couple of months, have become harder and harder to obtain, or alternatively to redeem. So it means that you don't have to worry about doing that redemption. Say for instance, if you do have a class like this one where you know you can get it from the students can be given an Azure Pass. And you know, you can certainly supply that to them, right? They can still use that. When they use that, though, that just means that they, you know, they can use that after the class to be able to do some of their work. So as we scroll down through here, what you'll see is that we will have some information about in this case, there's some additional instructor information. With that additional instructor information, some of the lab environment, some of the labs, when we start doing the Cloud Slice, there is potentially some limits on some of them. We try to work our way around most of them, or some things that are already created. So we'll make some notes of those, and there'll also be notes in the lab environment as well. If I scroll all the way past the module, the labs from the actual course itself, this is where you'll then see the challenge labs that are associated with it, right? And again, this is the additional content that you can pull in, or you can refer to the students to later on, past what's actually contained within the official content. In addition to that, I just wanted to show you our this is the community courses. So an example of one of our community courses, right? Where again we have an instructor environment. Okay, and then the students will have the student environment. Now the difference between them is pretty simple for the instructor. With the instructor lab environment, when we go to run that up, now I'm going to launch this up, and then when it's launched, I'll then pull it in. I'll share that out once it's finished launching. With the instructor lab and with the instructor environment, while the students have to go between, or well, students have module 1, module 2, module 3, etc. As the instructor, you don't. As the instructor, you certainly can run those up for, you know, so you can show what the students are doing. But in addition to that, you can actually use just one lab environment and move between them. And you'll notice as well that for the student times, we've got times like, say, for instance, for the labs for 3 hours, etc. So we've given the students lots of time to be able to do the labs, but for the instructors, we have four full days of timing for them to be able to use the lab environment. Now, why is that important? That's important because it then means that, say, for instance, you as the student, like as the instructor, you can go in and do some extra prep, you can go and do some extra work, you can go and do some extra, you know, set up extra demos, that sort of thing within your environment, and then know that the student, or that you'll be able to have that available when you go to when you go to show it to the students later on, that it won't wipe it out. So we give you extra time to be able to operate in, so that you then have the ability to be able to flex your instructor knowledge and that sort of thing. Now, the other thing that I'll just show you, and this is just part of sort of like the back end, that, and again, this is more from your training center environment rather than from yours. You'll see that there is a lot of LMS type content that's contained within here. that then means that organizations running their classes through our through the our LMS platform have a lot of flexibility to be able to do that management through there. Okay, now that my lab environment's started up, let me start sharing that out. You can get Teams to play the game. There it is there. So this is an example of one of our community courses. And again, it gives you an idea of what's available from an instructor's perspective as well. So you'll see, you know, like the lab environment here. If I go to the resources, you'll see that I've got multiple VMs that I can use to be able to change between. Right. And as part of those VMs, I do have the username and password, and I can use that to be able to log on with. Just simply as long as I've got, you know, the focus in the right point here, that I can use that to be able to change between. All right, with the instructions that are over here, so that'll log in. Now, once that's logged in, I can change around the like the screen resolution. That's the thing. Once it's logged in, I can also, like, the system can actually do some calls as well, so it can do some of the automatic resize into Windows. You can add in additional content as an instructor. You can upload additional content to be able to use. But if I change into here, I just want to show you the example of what the instructions might look like for you know, some of the future courses that you might see. So this is the instructor views. This is not what the student sees, but the instructor view is this, right, where we can change between different modules for the instructions, right? And you'll then see the basic level of guidance, and then we've got the expanded level of guidance as well. So, you know, as the instructor, you can flick between these two. You can also do things like, say, for instance, split out the window as well, so that you can then have, you know, your instructions sitting on a separate, on a separate screen, as an example, and then have full screen real estate to, you know, to the lab environment that you might be able to that you might be demonstrating through. Certainly, you'll see here that I've got the ability to be able to save my environment. So this is what I was saying, as the instructor, that you have the ability to come in, save your work, you know, make some changes, add some extra files in, that sort of thing, and then, you know, save your work, and then you can come back and use that as part of your demo. So you can do your setups and that sort of thing within there. So the idea is, like, sort of the platform should be as flexible as you are from a delivery perspective, and as I kind of said earlier, just basically get out of the way for your training, so that your students and you shouldn't have, you shouldn't have to spend the first first 30 minutes of a course telling your students how to do, how to use the lab environment. It should be, pretty intuitive to be able to do. It's, some of the things that you can give them hints with things like, clicking onto the connection button to be able to then have that flick between screens and that sort of thing, and put them onto the right one. But that's just sort of some of the icing on the cake. But the student should be able straight away be able to jump in and start doing actually start doing the work without you having to teach them the platform. Okay, all right, so we've got a few minutes left for our Q&A, so let's have a look at that. Okay, so there's
Kyle, we have a few questions.
Yes, sure.
So there is a question. Any plans to incorporate the learn content in the Skillable environment?
Yes, absolutely. So as part of the transition for of the change that Microsoft are doing for for where they're delivering their content to, then we will be able to we'll be putting that in place. We've had that ability to be able to do that for quite a while. It's just dependent on the course as to whether we actually do it, and obviously with Microsoft's change in how they're doing their delivery, then we're going to be making that change to support Microsoft's delivery of their content. But yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there is another question. Does the environment support advanced Azure resources such as Synapse?
Yes, yeah. So again, depends on the course, but yeah. So say for instance the Synapse course that runs, we have full support for that. So we do actually have the Synapse lab available for the to be able to run. So yeah, absolutely. You know, we can support any of those, to be able, we can support and deliver any of those advanced courses as well.
Okay. Is it possible to create a lab with more than one subscriptions? I know it's a specific request as to do with management groups, Azure policy, role-based access control, blueprints, and templates. I think for the MCT, this is, I think, not possible. Maybe is it possible with the partners, maybe?
So if you're using the Azure Pass to be able to use that with, then yes, you can use that. So like you would have to have, so the students certainly can do it if they're using Azure Pass, right? Because like things like so some of that content, you know, remember I said that there was some limits in, say for instance, the AZ 104 as an example, across a couple of those, couple of modules where we go and create some of the items, and that's because we want to be able to put some limits in what the costing is and that sort of thing. So therefore, you know, we'll put some limits in there. So that's where using a full Azure Pass would work. As an MCT, the only way to do that would be to add in, you know, it's a second, like or for you to be able to add in a second subscription. So to be able, you can certainly do that. You'd be able to redeem like an Azure Pass, but you'd have to, you know, get the Azure Pass to do it, or use your MCT benefit to be able to use that for your demo. And that's what I do. I use my MCT benefit for that. So for anything that I need that sort of that level of control in, I have a subscription that I have set up using my MCT benefit for that, and that's the Microsoft MCT benefit.
Okay. Any plans for an AZ305 labs?
So the AZ305, just have a quick look. Let's see. I have a feeling that we might already have support for that. Yeah. So yeah. So we do have. So we've got some challenge labs that we've got added into that. The reason that we don't have a lab and like an official lab content for that is because Microsoft don't have official lab content for that. The design of that course is that it is a design course. So the hands-on component that we have is more supporting your knowledge. It's not part of the actual course itself, and that is that's actually directly due to Microsoft's design. Because it is a design course as opposed to an implementation course. So, yeah.
Thank you. Can you provide the guide link for linking, merging multiple MCT profiles, delivered classes, etc.?
So if you've got multiple MCT IDs on our platform, then the best bet is to gather all of them and log a support ticket, and our help desk support will put that in. It's easy enough for us to be able to do on the back end, but if you just put a ticket in, we'll get that sorted out for you.
Okay. Any plans to update the UX UI of the management area of the platform, where we can see the next and current classes, whereas MCTI can launch labs, etc. Always find hard to things there. Love the platform, but this IMO could be improved. So I think this is some of the suggestions. Yes.
Yeah. So if there's suggestions on how we can change, we are certainly doing some UX development to be able to make some changes for. Certainly from the instructor perspective, there's actually a new Instructor Portal that's either just been launched or is just about to be launched. So you'll see some of that change from an instructor perspective. But certainly, if there's things that you think would be a really good improvement, then please let us know, and we'll take that into consideration.
Okay. Is there a way to check where is my nearest data center, so I can reduce the latency as much as possible?
So the platform actually does that automatically for you, and we do that for every connection that comes through. That whenever a student starts a lab, that we'll look to see where they are and where they're connecting from and connect them through to the nearest data center that has the content and has availability. So you don't need to make that choice. We make it for you. And as an instructor, if you've got students who connected to, all different data centers within our platform, you can still monitor them from one location. So.
Okay. From where I can find the transcript ID and access code?
Right. So that's the that gets back to the question of from before. So at the moment, obviously our form is out of date. So just simply put in like a fakey number for the moment for the transcript code, and we'll get that updated so that it's actually got the right link into there. So that's a change that's just recently occurred.
Okay, so they can add just any random code as if
and just make sure you put in,
because
make sure they put their MCT ID in there, and then we'll know.
Okay, because the profile has been changed and it has been merged to the Microsoft Learn profile. So I think this is something that is obsolete, I think so.
Yeah, okay. So we'll make some changes on our side for that, but yeah.
Yep, thank you. So what is a challenge lab, and does it exist in preparing a candidate for the exams, or does it prepare a candidate for using the product services in the real world, or both?
Both. The answer is both, yeah. So they can, obviously the knowledge that you need to be able to pass the certification exam is going to be the same knowledge that you use to be able to do things in the real world. So both of them will, you could use it for both. So.
Do you support an academic delivery model where students complete labs over a 3 to 4 months period?
Yep, certainly do. So you can schedule the classes over an extended period of time. I've got plenty of customers who do that.
Okay, so another question regarding access code, as we already explained that you can enter your MCID and any random number being an access code. Okay, let me have some other questions. Is this hands-on labs? Can I log in with my MCT email? I think so. Yeah, you have to log in through your MCT linked email account. Am I right, Kyle?
No, you can actually assign it to any account. Like that's what you supply to us when you actually do it. When you're creating when you put the request in for your access to the platform, that's what that's when you give us the details as to what you want to log in with.
Where to find passwords for admin and student user accounts in the mock labs?
On the resources tab. So all of that information will be the resources tab. Yep.
Okay. What is LTI integration? Is this related to Microsoft Learn LTI integration?
So Microsoft Learn will leverage off LTI to be able to get access to content. So yes, it's the same sort of idea, but it means that then you can depends which way they're using it. You can use it to be able to reach out from the platform, which is what we use to be able to contact to Microsoft Learn to be able to pull in content from there and from anywhere else as well. But then the flip side is to then go from you could use it to be able to go from, say, for instance, your own LMS. You can do an LTI call through to an endpoint, which might be the hands-on lab content to be able to call a lab. So the idea is you could then have, rather than using our LMS, you could use your own LMS to be able to call and produce courses and classes through.
Okay. Do you have lab conversations on GitHub where the community can comment?
Yes. Yeah. So we leverage off obviously the community. We leverage off the MCT community as part of the standard mock. But in addition to that, you would also for say for instance our community courseware, we have GitHub. We've got GitHub environments for that as well. So.
Okay. Can you please host all the MCSA, MCSE, and MCST labs for at least another 6 months?
So we host the content according to the agreement that Microsoft has with the authorized lab hosts. So we host and we supply the labs for as long as we can, according to our agreement with Microsoft. I'm aware that some of the other lab hosts do have previous content that's hosted. They're actually not allowed to do that, and unfortunately, you know, we abide by our agreement where some others may not. So, but yeah, so as long as we can have content available, we will make that content available.
Thank you. We have lots of questions, but as we are running out of the time, so we will advise you to send us an email and ask the questions. We'll answer your queries. We are going to upload all the recordings. This was our last session, the third session, and you will find all the recordings on our YouTube channel. So thank you very much, everyone who joined this session. And I really thank to Mr. Osman who hosted this session, and Mr. Kyle who was the speaker for the session. Thank you, Kyle, for your information and this wonderful session with us. Thank you very much.
No problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And please email us if you have any of the queries, and we will love to answer your questions. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Take care.